Mama, he's crazy, but he's not crazy over you nor me. Director of Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, James Mangold, has gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, now describing Indiana Jones 5, which, by the way, is perhaps the biggest flop in the history of all movies of all time, as heroic. And what makes it heroic, you ask? Well, that Disney was apparently willing to lose so much money. Revisionist history? I think so, but we'll let you decide. Hello, folks. Welcome back to the channel that finally makes Hollywood make sense. They can't make dollars, but we'll make them make sense, all right, and we'll hold their feet to the fire. Today, we're talking about James Mangold, the director of Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, who came in, screwed things up, made a bad movie, called a lot of people liars, found out he was the liar, and now, of course, well, he's calling all of it a heroic attempt at cinema. Today, we're reading from gizmodo.com from an article that, by the way, came out December 14th, and we're just now getting to it, but it's such insanity, and it was covered so little that it must be covered today. Folks, if you think this is going to be mundane in the least, just hang in there. See what you think. Here's what we've got. James Mangold has some thoughts on Indiana Jones 5's box office by Jermaine Lucier. Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, starring Harrison Ford, won't even crack the top 10 at the U.S. box office in 2023. Jermaine, it's not going to crack the top 10 because it's in the top 10 worst flops of all time. The only movie that it's in competition with is The Marvels for the biggest financial loss ever. Of course, it's not in the top 10. For the past 40 years, Indiana Jones has meant nothing but fortune and glory. Each of the franchise's first 4 films was one of the top 3 highest grossing films in the U.S. the year they were released. As we read this article, folks, remember that was the expectation, the anticipation that Disney likely had when it decided that it wanted to have this sort of an investment. Raiders of the Lost Ark was number 1 in 1981. Temple of Doom was number 2 in 1984. Last Crusade was number 2 in 1989. And Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, if you can believe it, was number 3 in 2008. However, when the calendar flips in the next couple of weeks, the 5th film, Dial of Destiny, isn't just going to miss the top 3, it's going to miss the top 10. And indeed, we flip the calendar, and that's the case. It's not even close. With a gross of about $175 million domestic, Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny will likely end up as the 12th highest grossing film of the year. 12th would be great for almost any other film released this year, but not Indiana Jones. Well, also, if you have a budget that probably marketing and production combined is close to $500 million, yeah, 12th is not a good return on investment. Why specifically this happened is a whole other article, or just videos on this channel. But speaking to the film's director, James Mangold, we wanted to know if the film's failure to live up to its box office expectations is something he takes personally, or does he simply stand by the work and realize it's out of his hands? He, as one might expect, had many thoughts on this, but has ultimately come to peace with it. Hopefully soon he'll likewise make peace with the fact that he slimed YouTube content creators out there like the Salty Nerd Podcast and Overlord DVD, which turns out they both were exactly right, and James Mangold probably knew that all along. Well, it's definitely the second, Mangold told IO9 over video chat. There's nothing I can do about how much a movie is going to make worldwide in a window of 4 weeks. Stop. Yes, there is. You can make a good movie. Otherwise, we would have complete randomness in who was selected to make movies. You were hired by virtue of the fact they believed that you could do something about how much it would make because they believed you were the best person to make the most money. That's how the economy works. Sorry. Other than interviews like this. Our grosses were very much in keeping with other films of similar ilk this last summer, and none of them featured a hero who was both Harrison's age and also was a franchise that had been dormant for 20 years. Stop! Remember when James Mangold came out and he was viciously attacking anybody who criticized the age of Harrison Ford. You're a bunch of ageist, he declared and screamed and screeched. He was defending his pal, he said. Now that, well, James Mangold failed spectacularly, and now that he may actually be the director over the biggest financial flop in the history of cinema, suddenly it's Harrison's age to blame. He couldn't do anything with somebody this old. Interesting that. Mangold recalled and maybe pined for the days of Starlog and Cinefantastique, when film reporting was about what people liked and didn't like and what inspired them. In other words, he misses the days when nobody cared that his movie was an utter flop. However, he admitted, at some point, everything became the Wall Street Journal. Now, box office numbers are treated as the end all be all of a film's success when history has made it very clear that is not always the case. No, if you lose 300 to 400 million dollars, you failed. It's not like you lost 15. It's not like you missed the ROI and they wanted a 15% return on investment and you got 8%. You lost hundreds of millions of dollars and you were the one in charge of it. And when people told you that you were doing stupid things and you were going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars, you screeched at them and called them horrible names and called them liars. James Mangold. Oh, and did we mention that James Mangold also called into question the the intellect and sanity of one John Williams? Yeah, he did that. The director also pointed to one of the most important flies in the ointment when it comes to the discussions of the box office, especially in the past few years. A lot of what expectations are based on is also what movies cost, he said. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Is that not the case in every single situation in the economy that you can think of? You you purchase things at the grocery store daily based on the cost. You pick your home based on the cost. Studios pick movies based on the cost. And I think it's not just true of our film, but others. Yes, it's true of literally everything you do. We made these films during a time of COVID. In the case of Indy, they had already been prepping a different movie and had spent a lot of money before we even started. Yes, James Mangold. We've seen the concept art from Steven Spielberg. We know we were supposed to have an Indiana Jones and short round film, and you came in and burned all of that money. You and Kathleen Kennedy, after Steven Spielberg decided he couldn't work with her, you and she came together and self-inserted Kathleen Kennedy Light again into this film with a goddaughter that is only there to make us despise the film all the more. And you gave us a tale of utter, what would you say, just depression with an Indiana Jones who has reached the end of his life and it just sucks. It just sucks. That's your decision. You made that decision. You are the one who burned the money. In the case of Indy, they had already been prepping a different movie, and it's been a lot of money before we even started. And so it's just hard to make large scale movies when world travel was decreased and you could be shut down at any moment by one person in your crew testing positive. You could also argue that when your directive is whatever you do, don't injure Harrison Ford. He's 79 years old at the time. And when you then have him on a moving train performing a stunt and he is injured and he can no longer work for months, by the way, we exclusively reported that here on this channel. Actually, this was before the channel, but I exclusively reported it. When that happens, James, it increases the money. When everyone who's working on the movie is stuck for 3 months at the same time that a pandemic is happening. Yes, that does increase the money. You're right. In the case of Indy, they had already been prepping a movie. You've heard that. And I thought it was heroic. And I thought it was heroic of all the studios to keep pushing on and making these pictures despite that, even though they were all costing 20 or 30% more than they would have if they had been made at another time. James, do you know why they did that? It's not because they thought they were going to lose massive amounts of money. They didn't. Lucasfilm didn't bring you on and Disney didn't bring you on because they thought, let's be heroic today and lose $300 million. They didn't do that, James. James, they did that because they thought that at the very least, given inflation, that this sucker could make the same amount of Crystal Skull, which was a horrifically bad movie. And you managed to make a third of the Crystal Skull's money. You managed to hit revenue levels a third of Crystal Skull. That, James, is not heroic. And that's why the studios don't view you heroically. This, of course, is rarely mentioned when lamenting the box office grosses of films today, but Mangold understands. Because it hurts the story, he said, like inserting Phoebe Waller-Bridge instead of having Short Round. Why get involved in those nuances? It's just a nuance, ladies and gentlemen. It's a nuance to be the director over the biggest financial flop in history. Darn it, you Marvels. Darn it. You're the only thing stopping him from being the director over the biggest flop in the history of cinema. We'll see. We'll find out in April-ish which film actually had the highest production costs, and we'll figure it out, folks. It goes on to talk about Indiana Jones compared to Mission Impossible or Fast X and all of that. But we'll wrap this up with James's final quote. When you've been doing this a while, your emotions get used to these kinds of tidal forces of media and discussion, he said. James, you might be lashing out at YouTubers in the future, maybe random Twitter followers, strangers. I don't know. One thing's for sure, you didn't act heroically here. And I don't know what's in the water at Lucasfilm. I don't know how they manage to make people go utterly insane and do utterly stupid things with films and then have the worst PR campaigns ever. Because before Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, James Mangold was rather well liked. He was normal. He made good stuff. The last Wolverine film was good. And then he got around Kathleen Kennedy and they destroyed what Steven Spielberg had created. They rewrote the entire thing. They turned it into a pile of trash. You can say, well, I disagree, and I don't care because the bottom line is the market said it was trash. The market put this in the category of trash. It took a film with a budget, including production and marketing, that is somewhere between $400 and $500 million, almost definitely, and it said, we're not going to go watch it. We don't care how much you spent. We don't care who's in it. We don't care about the legacy. We will not go watch this trash. And that's where it lands. It's not heroic to make trash. It's not heroic to make a failure. It is not heroic to fail spectacularly. It's heroic to attempt to do something very good and come up short. It's not heroic to scream at people and be mean to people and lie about people and hide the truth behind things from people. All the while you're doing those things that they say you're doing and you say you're not. And then you produce something that is not up to par. And then you come out later and say, heroic that they supported me in my efforts. I think not. Folks, we keep saying it. We keep saying this will be the final Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny video we ever have to do. James Mangold, though, he just makes that more and more difficult. We had to bring this to you. It largely got passed over because of the holidays. And, well, we're going to hold James Mangold to telling the truth to the best degree we can. All right, folks, that's the video for today. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you liked it. If you did like it, consider clicking the like button. Tell YouTube that you did. Share, like, subscribe. And you know what? When you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Also, folks, if you checked out the Pro Show live today at noon, great appreciation to each one and every one of you who joined us. If you didn't, though, it's on the replay. It's available until Friday, until it goes member exclusive in the archives. And if you want access to all of those Pro Shows forever, become a member. It's the price of a soda. We'd love to have you as a member of the channel. Folks, we're heading out. We hope you had a good time. We will continue to do our best to tell the truth and to force Hollywood to do the same. So wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.